I'm so happy that we're finally getting a chance to sit down and talk, Jeffrey, because we've been talking about this for a while, and Bhumi's wanted to be part of this conversation as well. So we're so happy that she's joining us and gracing us with her presence. I do want to say Jeffrey and I were both teaching yoga at Sonic Yoga here in Manhattan for the last gazillion years. And we have just formed a deep friendship and a deep love and a deep bond. And he's like my yogi brother. I'm just so happy that we'll be getting to talk about our favorite topic today. How are you, Jeffrey?
I am excited. It's the beginning of March. I finally feel that shift of more light and more creativity coming. It was a long, dark, strange winter.
So, Jeffrey, tell me, how many years have you been teaching yoga for?
I started in 2001. So I guess 20.
20 years, huh?
20 years. Mhm.
So I have to share with you guys, Jeffrey's classes are just lyrical. They're musical. They're just, um, whenever I take his classes, and we both studied with Shiva Ray, I feel as if he really embodies the flow so beautifully. And even though I don't think his intention is for us to transcend our bodies and our minds, but we really do in his classes. They're just otherworldly, and it's always such a delightful soup of deliciousness that we find ourselves in at the end of his class. So I want to ask you about your experience teaching yoga for the last 20 years, and how has it changed, you feel, from when you first started to how it is being taught right now here in New York City?
It's a great question. So when I first started teaching yoga, I was also I had just was completing my master's in dance, and I was also working professionally as a dancer. So I was one of those dancer yoga teachers for a while until about 7 years ago. And to be honest, my schedule at that time was just so hectic that um, I was so thankful to find Shiva Ray's teachers because they helped me to combine my love for movement and for um, yoga together, like in a cohesive sense. But I was teaching just so much, just like too much, and uh, but I'm just concerned about the impact that has on, you know, not just the students, but this sort of the commercialization of yoga and letting it get um, diluted and body focused and just rebranded in kind of an irreverent way.
Actually, there's two very important points that you raise in what you just stated. Um, one is that definitely, I know this from experience as well, that being a yoga teacher and living in a city like New York or many other big cities, you have to be working like you're a hamster on a treadmill. You have to work so much in order to make ends meet. And then the second thing is, what has therefore the quality of yoga become as a result of all this like mass churning out? In fact, I always quote is that in Wall Street Journal, they did an article which said that now there are more yoga teachers than there are yoga students in New York because of the rapidity with which yoga studios are churning out yoga teachers. So somewhere, and this is one of the things Jeffrey and I connect on a great deal because yes, we are lovers of the lineage and have, try to stay as authentic as we can to the teachings, but we also notice how the teachings have morphed over time and become something completely different, such that yoga is a sweat workout. It has to be, you have to crank out asana in order to get strong, to lose weight. And yeah.
Well, you have to crank out asana to get students. The students won't come unless they're given a workout. They want a good workout. That's what
Yeah.
everyone thinks, right?
Yeah.
Everyone thinks that that's what yoga is, exercise, right?
Right. And then the mental balance and the emotional balance, which is one of the greatest gifts of yoga, just happens to be like a byproduct. You know,
That,
it's not a
yeah,
focus, it's just like,
it's a byproduct, and it isn't even, it's not addressed, and it's not taken care of, and it's not, there isn't a container for the, any kind of a sacred experience.
first, I want to ask you, why did you learn yoga? And I'll tell you why I learned yoga. But I want to know what was the reason? Why did you get into yoga?
The reason I got very interested into yoga is because during my first yoga class, I had a very kind of mystical experience during Shavasana. I immediately thought, this is, I'm getting unwound, because as a dancer, you often do things, you do a turn more often than you to the right than you do to the left or something like that. So I kind of was, I mean, I was very sensitive in my body at that time. And I kind of knew the practical reason of this unwinding. But then I really wanted to like open my eyes and check, like, am I spinning? Like, that's how real it felt. But it was just, it was like it was a mental unraveling. It was just my body finally relaxing and grounding. And at that moment, I said, yoga has to be a part of my life. Like, yoga has to be like, this is so good, and we all need some kind of taste of this, or some kind of, that's what got me hooked.
Yeah, that's so interesting. That's so similar to my story. I was working in corporate America and I went to take a yoga class because my mother had insisted that I was a stress basket and I needed to take yoga. She used to do yoga from time to time back home. So I went to take a class, and after my very first class, I felt like, what just happened? Like, what was that? I feel different. I don't feel like the same, angry person that walked into the yoga studio and had very little time, then just needed to get a workout and leave. It really made me stop and think. And I realized that I wanted to study it, not because I had any interest in teaching it, but because I really needed to know this life skill. I want to ask you, when a lot of, and you've taught, I mean, hordes and hordes of students in New York City and made them yoga teachers. When people come to you for yoga teacher training, wherever you're teaching, whoever you're teaching with, whether it's with a studio or with whatever organization, what do you think people are looking for generally?
um they, well, at the core of it, they're looking to deepen their experience of living, their way of life. Yes, there are people who come because they want to get into handstand or something like that, or they want to teach, and make money. But at the core of it, it's like a retreat for them. They just want to focus on um, just the basic principles of yoga, like your body, breathing, reevaluating. Like, if when you're studying the yamas and niyamas, you say, oh, wait, like, am I living a life of of truth? Am I living a lie? It's a way of evaluating yourself. Sometimes at different periods in New York, like, sometimes half of the group would come because they'd been laid off, or half of the group was there because they were in a crisis moment. They had lost something, a job, a person, and they needed to just be in that container. And I think that's what it is. They want to feel like they belong.
Yeah, I agree with that. In fact, I think it's also, you're right. The way we live our lives, the way we're schooled, we're almost trained from the beginning to just keep going, just keep marching on. And whatever happens in life, whatever emotional breakdowns you have, it doesn't matter. You got to pick yourself up, you got to keep going. And yoga was that moment for me as well, which said, well, wait a minute, there's a lot of hurt that we haven't looked at, that we haven't addressed, that is still aching inside, and that needs to come to the forefront, and you need to let it heal, because if you keep repressing it and suppressing it, there's no air it's getting, there's no sunshine it's getting, there's no way you can heal it. And then that's the journey that led me into studying meditation so deeply and for so many years as well, because I knew that meditation was where the change was going to occur. And also, the entire practice of yoga is the practice of moving your body or embodying asana is to get to the point of reaching a meditative state, a place of acceptance with yourself, where you can see yourself the way that you are and embrace, accept your fears, your insecurities, your loves, your brokenness, your strengths. It actually teaches you to become so brave in the process. Right?
Absolutely.
So I have to ask you this question, Jeffrey. In your mind, I know you live in New York, and I know that it's a certain kind of yoga that we have over here. It's very different than the yoga in California or the yoga in India or the yoga in other parts of the world. In your imagination and in your mind's eye, what is like the ideal yoga teacher training that you would have liked to go through?
In the way that yoga takes us out of the bound quality of our mind, being in a place of power where there's nature, where you can see the sky, um, you can touch the earth, and you're exploring the planet in a responsible way is is the best. Like I've done many trainings in Costa Rica, and I just have to say, like, if you're in a fabulous place, it's like you everything is taken care of. You don't really need to worry about that much.
I felt that way when I was teaching in Bali the last time. I felt like I was doing the teaching part, but
Mhm.
the rest was just happening by the environment that we were in, the location we were in, the way Mother Nature was holding everyone. Because this kind of work, you really do need a team. It's not just if you're trying to heal old wounds or you're trying to make sense of the way things are, or maybe there's things that you haven't recapitulated and you need to go back and look into those. You need a village. You don't need just, a studio and go back to the same environment. It's just so much. The healing happens at such a rapid fire pace when you're
Accelerated, yeah. It,
loved up by nature, and then you have guides that kind of like open the right, help direct you towards the right doors. That makes a huge difference. I agree with you. Um, how do you feel right now as times are shifting?
well, I mean, I guess as a veteran teacher now, I think I'm excited to just take that sort of leap and, you know, I I feel a certain sense of freedom in a way. Um, and I'm excited that, we're starting to talk about projects to work together to sort of get that ball rolling where our students can feel like not they're not like just in an exercise class that they have to get this meticulous alignment and um, I mean why do you need to please the teacher? You know what I mean? Like that's the thing I don't get. Like why does the teacher get mad if the warrior two leg is not correct? I don't get it. It doesn't make any any sense at all.
Yeah, yeah. I think you and I really belong to the school of freedom and independence and finding your own voice and
Yeah.
finding your own yoga and make it so much your own that it becomes a practice that is like oxygen to you, that you cannot live without. Because if you're trying to fit into some teacher's idea of what your yoga practice should look like, you're never going to want to roll the mat. You're never going to want to, you
You'll
won't
never
be driven.
succeed. Yeah, you will not succeed.
So that's something that the two of us are really interested in cultivating. And between the two of us, the background in yoga teaching and yoga practicing and tantra teaching and studying tantra meditation, as well as the background of Sufism, we're actually putting together something that we're both really excited about. And yeah, there'll be more news on that in time. So stay tuned. You can follow Jeffrey on his Instagram, Jeffrey Duval. That's it, right? It's your name on the Instagram. And I'm Tanya Kazi one at the end, the number, because there were a few other Tanya Kazis, so I had to. Be creative.
Number one, Tanya Kazi.
The number one. There you go. And so I'm really excited about what we're doing because we're both always resonating on the same frequency. So stay tuned, guys. And I look forward to having a couple other chats.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey, for your time. And I love your tulips. They're so gorgeous. Has Bhumi traveled off somewhere?
She is disappeared. Yeah.
She's gone to do her own.
Active or inactive?
Cats are like the best meditators ever.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you guys for tuning in. And yeah, stay tuned for some delights that we are planning to offer.